being said, let me go to a Florida State guy. Brad Johnson, Super Bowl winning quarterback here. So I go from one Florida State guy to another Florida State guy. How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing great, Dan. Appreciate you having me on the show, buddy. I came on a little early today, so sorry about that.
It's all good, man. We're good, man. Hey, starting quarterbacks are always early. Defensive linemen like me are always late. Brad, what's this week like when you get ready for a week like this, when you're the starting quarterback? Look, defensive linemen and linebackers, we all have our own routines, but a quarterback, I think there's more of an approach to detail for you guys with a game like this. Walk us through what it's like this week.
There's a lot going on, obviously. Super Bowl week. When we played in it, there was only 1 week between the championship game and the Super Bowl. They have 2 weeks. So for us, it was a lot. I mean, there's so much going on besides the game, honestly. Tickets to the game, hotels, friends, text, the interview process is taking place every day. But at some point, it's going to be a regular work day. You're going to have your same amount of practice time. You're going to have your same amount of film time, but it may be chopped up during the day. And so you may have a walkthrough, then there may be a media request. And it's a group thing. And then you may have your practice, and then you're not able to watch the film until like 7 o'clock that night. It's all kind of confusing. And I think at some point you get over the excitement of it, and you just get tired of watching the TV, of all the things that are going on around you besides what's going on in the game as a player. And I remember for me, I was just like, I am so tired of the media. I'm so tired of practice. We've been going at it for 7 months. I just want to play the game. Just let me play the game. And I remember in my hotel room, I just started watching movies, because you're really kind of confined where, your family's not going to you don't get to see them. You don't get to see anything that's really going on besides what's happening. So you have to eliminate all the distractions and just get yourself in a state of mind that it's going to be another game when the game takes place. And it's hard to get over that, but it is just another game until it's over and the confetti falls.
Brad, do you think not having that extra week kept you more in a routine? Because the Eagles have 2 weeks. Did you like the fact that, hey, it was almost as scheduled and it was almost on the routine? Would you rather play the way you guys did, or would you think it'd be more distraction if you had the 2 weeks?
Well, we won, so I'm going to say I like the 1 week, okay? The hardest part at that point, honestly, we didn't have text was not going at that time, okay?
Right.
And so really all had your phone and your answering machine. So that was what you're dealing with there. But the hardest part for us was getting the hotels and getting the plane flights and getting the tickets for the game. But then I had to put that on my wife and just let her go. Everybody's on your own and y'all figure it out. So for me, I did like the regular work week schedule of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, walk through Saturday, and then play. So that was good. I think with 2 weeks' time, you can get caught up into you can start thinking about the game too much, or you can find yourself trying to sneak out of the hotel and get in some trouble too. So a lot of those things take place, but whoever can dial in on game day, that's the most important thing.
What was tougher, the NFC Championship game against the Eagles or the Super Bowl?
Honestly, I look at Philadelphia. When we played them, they were our nemesis. They'd beaten us 2 or 3 times in a row. They'd beaten us early in the year. That year, we won the Super Bowl October 20th. Beat us like a drum. I cracked my ribs. We were playing the last game in the vet in the cold. And so to beat them, our nemesis, that was just as much celebrated to us as the actual Super Bowl. So that was a big day for us. But obviously winning the Super Bowl, it's a different deal. The ring size is different. And you really don't understand it until you actually go through it and actually win it. And for me, when we won it, I ended up doing the confetti falls on your face and we're going to Disney with my son Max, who's 2 years old, and my wife Nikki, she's 7.5 months pregnant with our other son Jake, and we celebrated. And I remember the first time that was ever done. That was Phil Simms in 1987. That was the very first time it was done. That was a dream come true for me. But I remember going back to Tampa after we won it. We had the celebration. I actually got a little picture for you. I don't know if people can see it on the thing. Okay, so that was actually me and John Lynch. You can see people hanging off the bridges and the walls and everything. Just people going crazy. But you realize how much it meant to the people of your city, to your organization, everybody involved. You can become very, very selfish as a player, but then you realize all your parents, your friends, your school teachers, your coaches, and then especially those people in our Buck organization, what it meant to those people. So it's pretty awesome time, and you want to win it.
I won't lie to you, dude. I cried as a Buck who went through some shitty years.
Yeah.
I mean, to see you guys put that Lombardi trophy up, I remember my wife and I sitting there going, I went just like this. I can't believe it. I can't believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are Super Bowl champions, and you guys had to go through Philly to do it. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, oh man, it was like really remarkable. I remember talking to Leroy Selman about it, and he's like, I got to the NFC Championship game. They got beat by the Rams like 9-6 or something. And I remember just thinking to myself, too, back with Ray Perkins, I'm like, man, do you think we'll ever get to that? And so to see what you guys did, you carried all the legacy of the franchise across the finish line that day.
Yeah, Dan, it was so cool because on that day we had the parade as a Tuesday after the Super Bowl, and we're all in like convertibles, and I'm telling you, it was nuts. Okay, it was nuts. But at some point, John Lynch, he got out of the convertible. He was with me, and Warren Sapp, he was running around shaking hands and high fiving everybody. But about 20 yards in front of me, John Lynch and Warren Sapp, they saw each other and they hugged. I mean, it was as big of a hug as you could ever imagine. And they were there when the Bucks were the Yucks. And they were the beginning of what Tampa was, when Tony Dungy first came in there, and like really trying to turn that organization around to just trying to be respectable, to trying to win a game, not alone win a division, an NFC championship, and a Super Bowl, and bring back the Lombardi back. So that's how powerful those moments are. And it will change not only change your life, but it'll be something that you think about almost on a daily basis at some point.
Brad, when you beat the Eagles, how do you fight that where those guys were your nemesis? Those guys you had to, every team I think has a team like that where they got to get over the hump and they've got to beat that team. If they're going, first you got to want to win your division, then you beat a rival. How did you not exhale and know that there was another job to do when it came? Because we've seen it numerous times. Teams, they get over the hump and they beat that team, and then there's a letdown the next game. We see it in college and in pros all the time. What kept you guys focused going into that Raiders Super Bowl in San Diego?
Well, I think a couple things. Well, obviously, I think just the 1 week in between.
Yeah.
There was no time to breathe, no time to rest. It was really just onto a regular work week. And honestly, John Gruden, I mean, he came in there. We brought in 15 to 18 free agents that year. And there was no every day you were challenged. He challenged the defense. He brought in a bunch of free agents on offense. We all came together, and we all played for each other. And, in the end, there's a big distinction. Either the confetti's going to fall on your face or it's not. Until the job is done, it has to be done. And we knew there's a great challenge. I'm getting ready to face. For me, it was Rich Gannon, who I'd been with in Minnesota. So much respect for. He was the MVP of the league. Jerry Rice, who I'd watched on TV for all those years when the Super Bowl with San Fran, and Bill Romanowski, and the list goes on. It was just on both sides, there were great, great coaches and great, great players. And later you figure out how some of the great coaches that we had, Mike Tomlin, who went on to be a head coach and win Super Bowls, and Rod Marinelli and Rich Bisaccia, and I mean, the list goes on. I can list everybody. Raheem Morris went on. And so many coaches that went on to become head coaches and coordinators. But we've had 3 guys make it to the Hall of Fame, and hopefully, pretty soon Rondé Barber, and then maybe Simeon Rice too. So, but it's just a great collective of great guys. But you got to finish the goal, and you got to win it. That's all I can say. At the end of the day, you got to win it.
Let's get your take on the 2 quarterbacks that are in the Super Bowl and Super Bowl 57. Jalen Hurts, your take on him, on all the things that he's had to go through. I mean, Brad, you've had to go through in your career numerous stops, and here's a guy early that had to deal with that, was taking his job away on national television in the national title game, had to transfer, was drafted in the 2nd round. His journey is kind of remarkable if you think about it, where he is today. Just your take on him and his growth as a Super Bowl starting quarterback.
I work with a lot of quarterbacks, little young quarterbacks, and the first thing I ask the dad, the kid, are you ready to embrace what you're getting ready to go through? That journey of adversity, you better learn how to embrace adversity as a kid, whether it's not being good enough or whether not starting like Tom Brady in ninth grade and all those kind of stories. And to watch Jalen Hurts, we feel like we've been watching him for a decade already because of what he did at Alabama, then going to Oklahoma and being up for the Heisman and then getting drafted and sitting on the bench and then kind of overcoming that and then leading his team to a Super Bowl. So it's incredible what he's done. And early in his career, he has so much respect with seems like within his organization, but you see it from still at Alabama, he has that respect. At Oklahoma, he has that respect, and he had to earn it his way in Philadelphia. That's probably one of the toughest cities in America in the NFL to play for as far as their fan base. But when you earn their respect, they'll give you the love, and that's what he's done.
So you think that Jalen Hurts and Brad, tell me, because I always thought that this was innate. You're either a leader or you're not a leader. I think that's an innate quality that a guy and you guys and 32 guys have in the league that are the starting quarterbacks. I don't know if you could develop that. Can you, or does that thing, Brad, have to be something that you develop as a young player? And like you said, his father helping him begin the steps on developing that. His dad was a coach, obviously, so he knew what the sacrifices were going to be. Is that something that you can develop as you get older, or do you think that's an innate quality that you either have it or you don't?
It's all the above. Leadership is defined in a lot of different ways. You have quiet leaders, you have vocal leaders. At the end of the day, a leader is one that can get his job done and then get others to play for him. And I think Jalen's done that. But at some point in your career, you have to go through the ring of fire. And what is that ring? Was it not being drafted? Was it overcoming adversity? Was it overcoming an injury? Was it overcoming being benched? Was it overcoming a loss? Or what is your ring of fire that makes you who you are? And, for the thing about these opportunities here to play in the Super Bowl, you're not – it's so hard to get there. You better be good. You better be on a great team. You better have a great defense, great offense, and then you better have a little luck along your way. And I think Jalen's had that. He's earned the right to get back to this, but now you're at the pinnacle, and you got to take that last step to get on top of Mount Everest, and maybe your toughest step to take. Obviously, he's playing against Mahomes, who will eventually be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And he's kind of earning that right already, heading to his third Super Bowl already. But it's hard to get, but it's fun to watch people have greatness. And it's fun to watch people shine their light on others. And you see a young kid, Jalen Hurts is 25, I think, already have the respect within his organization, from the ownership to the coaches and the players around him to say, you know what, he's the guy that we want to play for. It's pretty neat to see.
Over to Mahomes here now. Tell me if you agree or disagree with this, Brad. To me, Mahomes looks like he has got all this God gift, and God left his hand on his shoulder a little longer than everyone else because he's got this phenomenal ability to make plays and to do things that we haven't seen a quarterback do. But I think it's a perfect combination to have a guy like Andy Reid because he doesn't put him in a sandbox, Brad. But there are some guardrails for him. And could this possibly be crazy to say? Not having a guy like Tyreek Hill on the team actually made him a better quarterback this year.
Man, it's an open-ended question a little bit. But to be honest with you, he's proven that he can play within the years to go to AFC Championship 5 years in a row, to head into his third Super Bowl, to recover from a Super Bowl loss as bad as it was in Tampa. And to recover like that, it's pretty cool. But Andy Reid, I think where you get drafted has a lot to do with your career, okay? You could have a coach that gets fired. You could play under a bunch of different coordinators, a bunch of different systems. And even like a Baker Mayfield, he's been in like 6 different systems already. It's not even his fault. It's just unfortunate the organization that you're going to. A guy like Mahomes, you know what? He's fortunate. He had a guy named Alex Smith, the quarterback in front of him, learn how to kind of be a pro, how to watch film, how to work, how to lead, and just be consistent. And I think Mahomes would tell you the same thing. But with Andy Reid, he ran with a wild horse in Green Bay with Brett Favre. Sometimes you got to let that horse run. And Favre, he could run fast, but he could run wild. Sometimes he threw some interceptions, but they lived through the hard times. And I think Andy Reid having to live through those with a guy like with Brett, and then kind of have the same skill set with Mahomes, who could unendless as far as the play making ability, and then let him make plays and let him make mistakes, but not put the harness on him either, put the brakes on him. So that's a unique thing. Some of the plays that they make, and then they find the greatness. I mean, even you see Travis Kelce, they throw a hook and lateral last week not the last play of the game, like in the first quarter. I mean, so they do a lot of these things probably in walkthroughs, in practice, and it's fun to see it come in life in games.
You know, I asked Jimmy Johnson the question on Mahomes. He goes, he's spectacular, but he said something to me that was kind of interesting. He goes, I'm going to make a comparison. Mahomes is kind of like Barry Sanders, and Tom Brady is kind of like Emmitt Smith. And I go, Coach, what do you mean by that? He goes, Emmitt's not going to have minus plays or turnovers. You're going to have to learn to live with some of the mistakes that Mahomes makes, because kind of what you said with Favre. I mean, these guys are going to challenge, and these guys are going to throw high percentage plays and high percentage turnover plays to potentially have a turnover. Whereas Brady, and I would think a little bit in how you played your game, Brad, it was all about not having to turnover more so than throwing 4 touchdowns, because Jimmy was like, I'd rather have a quarterback throw 1 touchdown, no turnovers, than have 4 touchdowns and 3 turnovers. We're not going anywhere with that. Do you think that's fair in how some people look at Mahomes? Like, I mean, look, it's great. He's phenomenal. However,
Right.
he's going to be gauged on how he wins in the postseason. His legacy is going to be in the postseason. And they haven't been spectacular games, Brad.
Right. There's a lot of different ways to win a game. So I think a lot of people do get caught up in just playmaking ability, how fast a guy can run, how far can he throw it, and they get enamored by all that. But at the end of the day, it is about making plays in the pocket. It's about it's about being a great decision maker. It's about game management also, from either your second, third down, and sometimes you do have to punt. But that game management, at the end of the day, it comes down to making plays without the crucial turnovers. And you almost saw it last week with Mahomes. They were actually running a little bubble screen. He catches it and he kind of threw it, and the ball slipped out of his hands, became a fumble. But it seems like guys like him, you got to let that horse run as fast as he can, and because he can make so many plays, he keeps you in the game. And obviously, with a guy like that, also your free agents to come in is a big deal too. They kind of the way you make your team. Where's the money at on the side? Is it on the offensive side or the defensive side? But a guy like Mahomes, he does not turn the ball over, to be honest with you, as many playmaking abilities that he does have.
Brad, did you have a rivalry with McNabb?
You know what? I played against Philadelphia and McNabb when I was in Washington, and then they had the same thing in Tampa. So we played against each other probably 8 or 9 times. You knew it was always going to be an ugly game. Honestly, it was Philadelphia's defense was phenomenal, and with the players that they had, the defense that they had, and the way they schemed it up. But you just had to find a way to win. So I don't know if it's a rivalry, like a hatred kind of thing, or we played long enough. But there were some great games that we played against each other, and obviously the NFC Championship game kind of propelled us.
Well, the majority of my viewers are in Philly. So what was that like going into the vet and playing at the vet against that? Because there were guys in Dallas and in New York that wouldn't want their families to go into the place, they said, because they didn't really, they didn't really trust the fan base that was there. What was it like playing in front of those guys? Right.
Well, you knew in the starting lineups were called Brian Dawkins. He's coming out there in a 4-point stance bear crawl. And you knew Don McNabb, he's coming out there holding out number 5, and the smoke was going to be blowing, And you always heard those things about, throwing snowballs at Santa Claus and a jail underneath the stadium, and all those things were real. I mean, it's true. Those are legendary stories, But I'd had some tough back in the vet. There was the turf was terrible. The stadium was terrible. Like there was nothing good about going to Philadelphia. Like really, I mean the Phillies, the cheesesteak. You know what I mean? That's all that was good about it. But I mean, I'm dead serious. I mean, you were in for a fist fight. You know what I mean? But when you came out of there, and if you could get a win, it was an incredible feeling. And for us to play the last game in the vet, to have won the game, they would not let us celebrate on the field. We had to go back into the stadium.
What do you mean they didn't let you celebrate?
Think about it. We were the only team that never got to celebrate on the middle.
So wait a minute. Wait,
put
was
us
this
back
an
in-
Eagles thing or an
was an
NFL
Eagles
thing? They
thing.
wouldn't let you celebrate on the vet field?
They didn't. Last game of the vet, they put us back into the locker room. I was glad at that time because it was warm. But no, they didn't want the last memory of the Bucs dancing on their field. So there you go.
I never knew that. So
Yeah.
you couldn't celebrate the NFC Championship game
Yep.
on the field at the vet because the Eagles didn't want you to do that. They made you go into – you got to be the only team that I've seen in the last 30 years where you didn't celebrate on the field.
That was it. Philly did not want. They didn't want that dance on their field. So we all shook hands, we hugged, and then went back inside to have the celebration in the locker room. And then the next year we actually played our first Monday night game at the Link and won that game 17-0. So it was kind of we shut down the vet, opened up the Link, and I was the first quarterback. There's a little wall back there, okay? So there's a little wall when you walk in the locker room. All the quarterbacks that have won opposing opponents. I was the first quarterback that got to sign his autograph on the Link.
That's incredible. All right, finally here. How do you see this game playing out on Sunday?
Wow, two great games, two great quarterbacks, two great teams, two number one seeds, which very rarely do you get. It'll be curious for Kansas City on the defensive side with Spagnuolo because he loves the blitz, he loves the disguise. Can they stop the RPO game with Jalen Hurts? Whether it's run to run, run to pass, whatever it may be. Sometimes they have three options. The part on Philadelphia will be how many guys do they have to rush? Can they play with two safeties? And can they stop Travis Kelce? Can they get? And they usually get home with the four guys rushing. So that will be the deciding factor. You're going to see one team that's going to disguise and blitz in Kansas City, another one that's going to be kind of, I would think, sit back in Philadelphia's defense. So I'm going to be sitting. I'll be back in my house and having popcorn and a few diet drinks there. It's going to be a great game.
FSU looks like they're on their way back. We're kind of like trying to get back there, Brad. We're working on it, but I like what Coach Norvell's doing, man. He looks like he's got that program back in the right direction again. Dude, you're great. I thank you so much, man. And again, I've always told you this. Bringing that Super Bowl home to the Bucs, man, was a big deal for a lot of people, man. And thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. Have a great Super Bowl week.
Awesome, Dan. Appreciate your friendship, buddy. Thank you, man.
You got it, man. That is the great Brad Johnson. We appreciate it. Guys, do me a favor. Please hit the like.